Welcome back to the Two Promises podcast. Let's dive right into another exciting adventure with BD and crew as he pursues his new passion of one day finding the most epic bourbon. The Two Promises team send their special thanks to Hobie and the Huckleberries for their masterful theme music. So grab a glass, relax, and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey, now I'm feeling fine. Drinking that smooth, smooth whiskey. No more wine. I like straight bourbon. Baby, you try the ride.
Welcome back, everyone. Grateful that you're tuning in again on another episode of the Two Promises podcast. I am super excited that today we have on a brother of mine, a fellow teammate. We were at Team 1 together pretty much my entire time at Team 1, and he has just gone on to not just serve the Navy, serve the United States and the SEAL teams, but now he's just doing great things with his consulting businesses and other businesses. We have Coach Ty Smith on. How you doing, Ty?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm so excited to be here with you, man.
Absolutely. It has been a ride. We were just talking about that a little bit as we were catching up before the show about just life and how it'll take you down some different paths. But I just kind of do a little rehash of where we started and where we're at now. So you came out to Iraq after you got done with one of your shore duty commands, I believe. And I was there with Winkley and the Bravo guys, and I met them kind of midstream because I was just finishing up the medical course. So I joined them about a month into deployment, and I think you were right in that same time frame as well. And then we went to different platoons at Team 1, did different things, and then I got asked to go fill a medical shortfall with Team 3, and we ran into each other again in Afghanistan whenever you were coming out there as your platoon chief.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you mention it, now I remember. So I think that first deployment where you and I linked up, I think wasn't that the deployment in Al-Assad, Iraq?
Yes.
So yeah, you were out there with Wink and Tisdall,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so that deployment is actually where I met Senior Chief Retired Joey Brackett, who is one of my best friends in the whole world to this day. And Joey would go on to be my platoon LPO when I was a platoon chief back at 1.
Okay, excellent. And so then that would have been that Afghanistan deployment or a different one.
Well, I'm trying to remember, dude. Like, bro, we've been hit across the head like way too many times. I have a hard time. So was that the Al-Assad Iraq deployment in 2009, right after we left Buds, when I was an instructor and you were going through training? Or was that fast forward a few years and it was when I was a platoon chief at 1 and I relieved Wink and Hartley in Afghanistan and Baraki Barak? Which one was it?
So we crossed path on both of those. Whenever
That's what I thought,
your
yeah.
LPO, was that in Afghanistan or?
That was in Afghanistan.
I lost touch with him. Okay, cool. Yeah, I lost touch
I see,
with him.
Yeah, so when I got out to Al-Assad with Wink and Tisdall and all of those guys, Brackett was in that platoon too, but he was the LPO at the time.
Okay.
And I was just leaving Buzz after that 2.5-year tour as an instructor. And then I went to 1 and they immediately threw me in that platoon. They were already gone, so they forward deployed me out there. I went to Ramadi, hung out in Ramadi with Jason Tushin for a couple of months. Because remember, I was just coming off of, I had been sick for almost 2 years when I was a BUDS instructor. In fact, I don't know if you remember some of that time you were there. Like I was super skinny, because it come to find out that I had hyperthyroid disease and it was killing me. And fortunately, I recovered. But after that, when they sent me to Team 1, I went out to Ramadi with Tush for a while, hung out there with him for about a month or 2. And then that's when they farmed me out to Wink and Tisdall. And that's when I met Joey Brackett for the first time on that deployment. Right. And you had Dave Dillahy out there as well. And And then you fast forward several years is when I became a platoon chief and I recruited Joey Brackett into my platoon to be my platoon LPO. And that's when we relieved Wink again, but he was with Sam Hartley as the OIC at that time.
That's right. That's right. And on that turnover op, so I don't know this. I know there's probably part of the platoon or whatever, but we had just built a police checkpoint right in like the Tangi Valley, just kind of like bad guy territory. And that's whenever Hartley got shot. He got shot while we were building that checkpoint. Well, right before we ripped out, it got overtaken by the Taliban again. So that turnover op was taking that checkpoint back. And just, I know I was controlling air for part of it because there was some like comms issue and things like that. But whenever they got there, they had just like cut out the kidneys and smeared the walls with the kidneys and stuff like that, and just completely decimated the last people standing there. Waited for them to run out of ammunition, came in, killed them all, and then we took it back. But I mean, that whole area, obviously, the pull out of Afghanistan was pretty ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of the world there. Is there anything else from that deployment that stuck out for you? That's just what I remember of us just kind of like high-fiving, saying, all right, this is where we've been. This is what we've been doing. You guys got it now.
Yeah, man. Because that turnover, I think that was the one we went out to Saracen. It was either when we went to Amadak Hill or it was Amadak Hill, not Saracen.
Yep.
Right. And so there was a tremendous amount that I remember from that deployment because as we were lead y'all, fighting season was kicking off and we got in so many gunfights. I mean, twice a week we were fighting for our lives in anywhere between 8 and 18-hour gunfights for that whole deployment. It was easily the most kinetic deployment of my entire career. Dude, I think that we got in at least 60, 70 gunfights in that 4.5 months we were there until they pulled everybody out and retrograded. But the Tangi Valley, Baraki Barak District Logo Province in general is known for being one of the bloodiest regions in all theater because it's a valley and you've got terrain on each side of it and it opens up at the mouth of the Tangi Valley. But if you turn around and go the other way up to the northwest, you're going up into the mountains and you're escaping into Pakistan. So that's their MSR, right? That's their main supply route. So they come in that way, they go out that way. That's how they resupply. There's always a tremendous amount of Taliban traffic taking that pass in order to come into country and fight in order to escape out as fighting season is wrapping up and it's starting to get cold and they want to go hide out in the mountains of Pakistan. And so given that we were there for all of fighting season, it was just a really, really bloody deployment. And fortunately, we prevailed and Joey and Tav and I were able to bring all the boys home safely. Dude, we Winchester and AC-130 gunship 3 times that deployment. In 4.5 months, we Winchester and AC-130 gunship 3 times. We got in so many crazy gunfights. So many of those gunfights were 4-sided gunfights where we were just running and gunning like it's a Call of Duty video game. You're just getting shot at from everywhere. And fortunately, my boys, dude, I had some killers. They were just so good. And it was helpful that we had, I think, an additional 6 months to train before we even started our training cycle because we formed early because SEAL Team 1 had just done that shift around of everyone. And so I had basically built our own private 6-month ULT, unit level training. And I took the boys all over the place. I took them to Germany for a month where we did this big training exercise of a bunch of different special operations groups from, I think it's like 30 different countries. I took them down to Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas twice for a combined 30 days of our own training. We were all over the place getting after it. So by the time we started ULT, man, we were singing. And that was really helpful because when we got out to that deployment, and I had told the guys before we were heading out there, hey, like, this is serious. I was reading every one of Wink and Hartley's intelligence reports that they were passing down to me. Wink was passing me those reports every day, pretty much. And I was reading them every day for months on out before we went out there. And so I spent a bunch of time preparing my guys for what they were about to get into, especially considering most of my boys were brand new guys. And so, dude, there were so many gunfights that we got into that were by the grace of God. Like, I can't believe nobody got shot. I can't believe nobody got blown up. I can't believe that helicopter didn't just get shot down like right before our eyes. Like, I don't know why they tried to land it right there in a hail of rockets and gunfire. But man, how much time you got, you know?
Right. Yeah. And that was kind of the characteristic of my experience out there in Baraki Barak as well. And just for a little bit of flavor, I've been actually kind of going through some of this stuff with some of my writing, and that's the same valley that Extortion 17 was shot down in. So,
In fact, the reason why I was selected to lead that platoon was because I was on that deployment with Gold. I was at 2 Troop when 1 Troop was shot down on Extortion 17. And I will never forget that night. I was laying in my hooch and I was watching some stupid show on TV. Because you know the deal, like we sleep all day and then we get up when the sun starts going down, right? Because we hunt all night. And we were on an off night because 2 Troop was going out. And we would QRF for one another. If they went out, we were their quick reactionary force. If we went out, they were our quick reactionary force. And so we were all awake and just kind of doing our thing, and dudes were hanging out because we knew that 2 Troop was going out, and they were working out of Fob Shank. We were working out of J-Bag, right? And so I was laying in my bed watching this show, and really good buddy of mine, dude, I went through Bud's training with, who was permanently attached to Gold, ran by my room, stuck his head in the door, was like, "Hey, Ty, like, get up, we gotta go to the team room. Extortion 17 just got shot down." And I thought he was joking, right? And he looked at me, and I could see in his eyes, he was like, "I'm not joking, brother. I'm serious. We gotta go." And I'm like, "Get up, we gotta go." Start running to the team room. Everybody starts getting jocked up. And my buddy, Wooly, starts walking over to me, and I was one of his new guys at SEAL Team 8 back in the day, and I could see the look on his face. He was horrified. And he walked up to me, and he said, he was like, "Dude, I watched the whole thing go down on ISR. Like, there's no way those guys are alive." Next thing he said was, "My best friend's dead. I know Johnny Foss is dead." And, you know, he just put his head down, started walking up into the team room. And as we're getting kitted up, CMC, the FAMS chief, walks in. He goes, "Everybody stand down. This is what happened. Like, we're pretty sure all of the boys are dead. There's no way I'm sending you guys out there to pull your own brothers out of that helo." And we wouldn't have been able to do it immediately anyway, because that thing was burning for like a week after it went down, and those guys' charges, their frag grenades, everything was just going off for like a week while that bird was burning. And so they ended up sending a platoon of Rangers out there, and they set up a cordon, and they slug it out for like 5 days while that thing was burning. Taliban was trying to get to it, see what they could get. And the Rangers were just whipping the ever-loving crap out of them, you know, like Rangers do best.
Yep.
And then eventually they were able to get everything out of there. And we went over to Shank and hung out at Shank for a couple of weeks while we were basically inventorying the guys' stuff and recovering weapons and equipment that had been pulled from the crash site so that we could inventory and send things back, send guys' families back their personal items that were still out there in theater with us. That was pretty crazy. And so when you fast forward, I actually made chief on that deployment when I was augmenting Gold, because I was still permanently attached to SEAL Team 1. I was just augmenting. And when I got back from that deployment is when Chris Good said to me, "Hey, man, I think you're ready for a platoon, right? I know that you just came back from the augment, so you're very familiar with the Tangi Valley because you're out there with Gold. You probably want to go back to Afghanistan. So the platoon I'm giving you is likely the platoon that we're going to choose to go to Afghanistan." I didn't know at the time that we were going to go back to Baraki Barak, or, you know, the J-Bad area, the Baraki Barak area. But that's when he selected me to take that platoon and take him back to Afghanistan. And a few months after that is when we realized, oh, we're going back. I'm going back to the Tangi Valley. And that day, every day, my boys probably got tired of hearing it. And I was just hammering them like, "You guys don't understand. This is serious. The place we're going, we are going to get in fights. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? We're really lucky. We got chose to be the A team and go exactly to where the fighting is. There is going to be a lot of fighting, because even when I was out there with Gold before Extortion got shot down, we got into a bunch of gunfights, like really crazy gunfights. And so I knew what we were getting into. And again, by the grace of God, I was able to get my boys there. We did a fantastic job, and then we got out of there. But while we were there, I thought that we were going to witness another helicopter crash as a result of an operation we were running with the ODA, which maybe I'll save that story for later or for another time. But yeah, man, that was a crazy valley, bro.
It really was. It really was. I mean, when we were building that checkpoint, that's the closest I've ever come to being shot. And it was like a few times, but no joke, I felt the round pass by my head. That is how close it was. I felt the wave coming off of that bullet going right by my head, and then it was just pocking all around my feet. But all our training kicked in. We went right into IMTs. We got out. Like, we were just, me and my shooting buddy were pretty exposed there for a while, but he said whenever he hit the deck, he didn't even like go down like into his sights. He, no joke, just face planted in the dirt. And he's like, I'm so glad I did, because I had my head kicked up, which is not what you're supposed to do in IMTs, but it saved him. Whatever it was, had that instinct told him, nope, this is the time I go down. And so he went straight down face into the dirt. And he said he felt that round go like right over the back of his head. And had he been popped up, would have domed him. So yeah, that's a very dangerous area. There's a lot going on there. IMT'd for a bit until our buddies could clean us up. And then we were able to kind of move a little bit faster and get out of that kill zone. But yeah, that's a crazy spot. So, man, thanks for sharing all that. I didn't realize you had that history with Extortion 17. So that's really good stuff to share there, especially, I mean, we're recording this the day after that anniversary, so it's been heavy in my mind. Two of the guys in class with me, Spihar and Groob, they were killed on that. We just did the centennial graduation of our class, and we had a memorial up there for them just to kind of keep their memory alive and let all these new warriors that are joining our ranks to know, hey, man, it's real. This is the real deal. This is what you're getting into. So it's really good to be able to honor their memory. So that's where we kind of lost career contact. I went on, I did a different thing. You did a different thing. So can you catch me up with your career post that Chiefs platoon? Where'd you go? What'd you do? I know you did a lot of great things.
Yeah, so after my platoon chief cycle at SEAL Team 1, I took orders down to the Advanced Training Command to be the Senior Enlisted Advisor of Naval Special Warfare SEER School, Search, Evade, Resist, and Escape School. And so for all the listeners, that is the last block of training that the students go through before they actually get their SEAL Trident and get assigned to a SEAL team. And so I was down there for about a year and a half before I retired. I got down there and basically focused on finishing my undergraduate studies. And then I immediately hopped into business school at USC. And so I knocked out my graduate studies, built my first company within that last 6 months of my active duty time. And then I retired. I put on senior chief and then I retired as soon as I finished, like literally the week after I finished my MBA at USC, I retired from the Navy and was working for myself.
That's freaking awesome. That's great. I'm so stoked to hear that. So what was that first company that you were building? You said you were able to build that while you're doing your transition into retirement.
Yeah, so it was called Vigilance Risk Solutions. We were a technology-enabled security consultancy. And so our special focus was workplace violence prevention. And so we would build bespoke web-based training courses for companies to teach them how to keep employees safe. We would do their security assessments. We would help them write their policy around risk and responding to bad things that would happen on the campus or with their company. We did that for about 4.5 years, almost 5 years, until COVID started rearing its ugly head. And I realized that it was going to crash that business model. And that's when, long story short, we ended up becoming ComSafe AI, this generative artificial intelligence company. And that was fortunately like still a year or two ahead of the big AI wave starting. We were early on that. I learned a tremendous amount in raising that first company, especially when I fast forward to now and I can look back on how much I learned. Like, honestly, I'm like, dude, I didn't know anything back then. Like, I was just like, okay, I can team guy this, like I team guy everything else. I'll figure it out. Let's go. But when I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, I probably would have did things a little bit differently given what I know now.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the magic of it sometimes. Sometimes it's just getting in there, getting to work, throwing yourself at it, and you're learning through it. And then you can take that experience and all those lessons learned, if you apply them right, those are those things that you can apply into that next company or to that next mover to help other people. And that really springboards them so they don't have to repeat some of those mistakes. But I mean, the magic a lot of times is just getting in there and doing it.
Yeah, man. There's a saying in business where people say sometimes the best way to know if you can do business with someone is for y'all to just get together and go out and start trying to do business, and then you figure it out along the way, whether it's going to work out or not. Right.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. That's awesome stuff. So you did ComSafe AI, and now I'm feeling like your major push is in your Hero Consulting. And
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah. So Hero Consulting is like, this was always supposed to be my capstone, right? So Hero Consulting is an executive coaching company where I focus on men of faith that want to become entrepreneurs. And I teach these men how to build businesses that scale really, really quickly because of model and because of spiritual alignment. And it had always been my plan to grow ComSafe AI to the point where it got acquired. And then I would go on and tell my story to other founders and motivate them to do the same thing and let them know that it's absolutely possible for them to do the same thing. In fact, here, let me show you how I did it so that you can avoid all of the booby traps that I stepped on along that route, right? And a few months ago, I had a lot of stuff that was going on in my personal life and my professional life. And I just felt like God was telling me, no, you're going to launch that now. You're not going to wait for ComSafe to be acquired. You're going to launch that now. And I'm really, really glad that I did for several reasons. But ComSafe AI is right now is tied up in M&A transaction with a private equity company attempting to acquire it. And whether that goes through or not, you know what I mean? God's will be done either way. And so we'll see how that turns out. But it's given me the ability to kind of focus on growing out Hero Consulting as quickly as I can, so that if ComSafe doesn't get acquired right away, there's a way for me to tie those together and have them mutually support one another. But Hero Consulting is getting a lot of my attention these days. And I found that it's almost like it's cathartic, man, because I feel like now I am operating within my purpose. I feel like now I'm operating within my God assigned purpose, which is to be a prophet to the nations, someone that goes out and that is actively a walking and talking testimony of God's grace. And I'm trying to give that fruit to other people and show them how to raise themselves and their tribes up too, so that not only do they have spiritual alignment, right? These are men that are trying their best to walk in the image of God, but also while teaching them, hey, this is the path that not only is building generational wealth for your family, your responsibility, but this is how you do it. And this is how you do it as quickly as possible. And so I'm having a lot of fun doing that because in my heart of hearts, I mean, like, you were one of my students, but I was instructor, man. Like, you know more than most. In my heart of hearts, I'm a teacher. I love helping people. I love helping people to grow and seeing that big old smile on their face when they do something that they never thought that they could do, right? Watching
absolutely.
a group of brand new Navy SEALs walk across that grinder graduating from budge training, and knowing that I had something to do with that feeling that they're experiencing right now. And that's what really sets my heart on fire. And with Hero Consulting, I feel like I'm kind of living in that lane these days, and it's a lot of fun. And so I'm coaching aspiring and brand new entrepreneurs. I'm also doing leadership development workshops for large companies. I'm getting ready to launch some online training courses on entrepreneurship to help, entrepreneurs to do it, for me to do it with them, so that, again, they avoid a lot of the mistakes that cost time and money and resources, mistakes that I made early on in my career. And then I'm also doing a lot of writing as well. Because again, I think that my purpose, a part of my purpose, is to help other people grow. And it's hard to do that one-on-one. And so I've had to learn how to communicate to crowds, which is why you see me so busy on social media all day, every day. But I'm finding different avenues to do that. And so I've got a couple of books that are coming out really, really soon. And again, I'm doing podcasts all over the place. I actually filmed my first masterclass yesterday. I'm really excited to get that published on my YouTube channel at Coach Ty Smith. and that is The Modern Man, a Navy SEAL's Guide to Mastery, Meaning, and Mission. So I'm really, really excited to share that with all of the men out there that are looking to advance their lives. And so it's keeping me busy, but I'm finding that I'm having a lot of fun doing it. It's not the kind of busy where I'm stressed out. I'm like, yeah, like this is what God wants me to do. He wants me to go out there and raise other people up and share my fruit with them and help them to accomplish their goals and build wealth for their families and keep their hearts in the right place so that the devil doesn't start pulling them in this direction now that they're making a little bit of money, because it's easy for that to happen to men. So I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing because in my heart of hearts, I'm a teacher.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is so awesome. I'm loving hearing all that. So you've just been stacking success after success after success. You had a great career in the teams. You had a great career in the Navy. You retired as a senior chief. You were able to transition at that pinnacle. You'd done it. You'd done your chief's platoon. You had accolades, successes, and then you stepped right into the business world. And yeah, of course, there were challenges, but you were still very successful in that entrepreneur's journey. And you have multiple companies under your belt now. So what could you share with our listeners, an attribute that, was useful for you to be able to accomplish those successes that you've been able to accomplish so well?
Yeah, I think that, again, not being willing to stand still while you're getting actively shot at. Like, no, I got to keep going. Even when I make a mistake, like I don't have time to sit there and kind of focus on that mistake for a while. Like, no, I don't. Like, okay, I acknowledge I made a mistake. Now, what am I learning from it? Okay, you got to get up and keep moving. And so, my desire to just keep going, that's been really helpful. Grit, the fact that I have learned the hard way that I can take a lot of stuff. I can carry a lot of weight on these shoulders and not complain about it and just keep going. And I think that the thing that has helped me most, and I've learned this over the last, I'd say 2 or 3 years in particular, Brent, is surrender. That has been extremely helpful to me over the last few years as things got really, really difficult, personally and professionally, learning how to stop resisting so much. Because, again, I went into entrepreneurship with a team guy mindset. Like, I'm going to team guy this like I team guy everything else. So just don't get in my way and you'll be fine. You know what I mean? And I learned in entrepreneurship, like it doesn't necessarily work that way. Like you can team guy yourself into walking off of a cliff real fast. In entrepreneurship, things just don't work that way. And so I made a bunch of mistakes at the very beginning of my career. And I still make mistakes from time to time, just like anyone else, but I made a lot of them. And a lot of them could have been the kind of mistakes that would cause a new entrepreneur to go like, that's it, I quit, this isn't for me, I'm going to go get a job. But having that grit, I think I've always had it, but it was really brought out of me when we went through training and throughout our careers in the SEAL teams. That has been tremendously helpful because my inclination whenever I would hit resistance would be to fight, 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 fight. And now I've learned that, hey, you got to surrender and flow. Like I spent a lot of time asking God for his discernment. And I realized a few years ago, like, yeah, I was asking for it, but I wasn't really listening when he was trying to give it to me. And so now I've learned to surrender. And if I'm trying to go this direction, whether it be in life, in my training, in one of my businesses, and I'm feeling some static and I'm feeling like real resistance, I'm learning to just go, okay, well, pencil down, let me listen and hear if there is an alternative to what I'm doing right now, because I don't want to be ice skating uphill anymore. I'm 47 years old. I'm too old for that. I don't want to work that hard anymore, right? And so I've learned to stop resisting so much and to surrender and flow instead. Like, okay, God, you want me to go this way? Fine, I'm going to go this way. No problem. No, I don't even need to understand what's over there. You told me to go that way. That's the way I'm going. I'll figure it out when I get there. I know that your will for me is always good and perfect in your way, right? So learning how to surrender and stop resisting has been really helpful. And then lastly, so to be a really good teacher, first you got to become a really good student. And so I learned a tremendous amount from mentors, advisors that were really trying to help me to understand how to navigate my entrepreneurial journey. considering I had never done it before. So I got a lot of help doing that, But I found, going back to point number one, that grit has been, at least what I've discovered, is the most important characteristic in all of entrepreneurship, because you're going to get hammered. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And I'm really, really glad that I have that natural grit that has allowed me to not just face all of the obstacles that I face on this entrepreneurial journey, but be relentless in my pursuit, to the point where I'm like, okay, I understand that's an obstacle, but it's not going to stop me. I'm either going to go over it, around it, or through it. And I'm going to keep going. I'm really doubling down on that with my coaching clients, and letting them know, like, hey, like when I was running a SEAL platoon as a chief, a part of my responsibility was to let those boys know exactly the danger they were getting into, what we were getting ready to go do in the Tangi Valley. Now I got to do the same thing for you. This is going to be the hardest thing you have ever done in your life, especially if you do it right. But I promise you that the reward that's going to come out of the other end, it's going to be 10x this pain that you're feeling in the process of building what you're building. So grit is incredibly important.
Absolutely, man. I'm so glad that you shared this. This is just really pinging on a lot of the attributes that have been just really stewing. And you mentioned you're working on a book. I'm working on a book as well. And you've just like hit chapter themes like like nobody's business. So kind of in that vein, success, grit. Would you be able to provide an example that you're comfortable sharing for one of these challenges that you went through, and maybe some of the stuff that you were going through, like how you were feeling, what helped you get over to the other side of it?
Yeah, so I can remember.
Thank you for joining us today on this curious roller coaster of life. If this is your stop, please exit peacefully. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're ready for another one, just push play. Just a final note before you go, thank you, and thank you for feeling. The distillation and aging process is different for everyone. I'm not quite sure what you're ready for. Sip slowly and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey, now I'm feeling fine. Drinking that slow whiskey. No more